Hey guys, Abel here, back with another video, and in today's video I would like to talk about Ozempic, semaglutide, and some of these miracle weight loss drugs that are on the market and that are taking the fitness world by a storm. What reminded me of this is a brief video clip that I came across from James Smith on the High Performance podcast.
I am actually now in a position where even things I've been wrong about recently, Ozempic, so semaglutide, did a video about it. I was like, probably insecure that it might hinder my fitness business. I had to really get that out there. I was like, maybe I don't want people taking things that reduce their appetite, because that's how I make a living.
He was talking about Ozempic and how he made some comments on it in the past, not being particularly supportive of the whole phenomenon of this drug becoming more prevalent and then that people are using it and they're getting great results with it. And he was basically discouraging the use of it, and how later he had to reconsider his stance when he tried it and could actually experience it firsthand how powerful it is. And since then, he made several pieces of content where he was basically explaining that I was wrong, and yeah, Ozempic is legit. And if you're someone who has serious difficulties with controlling your appetite and weight loss diets, even though you tried a lot and you already have the method down and you know what to do, but you just simply cannot adhere to anything because food cravings and all of those things are just taking the better of you, then yeah, you should probably consider using something like this. It could really help you. And my first thought when I heard that was, well, that's amazing that he was man enough to actually realize that he was wrong and come out and say it openly. And also coming from him, this could actually open up the eyes of a lot of people and could just let them know about a tool that could seriously be helpful for them. So I think all of this is really, really positive, and so a big thumbs up to him. My second thought was that his initial disparaging reaction to the whole Ozempic phenomenon is actually quite illustrative to how the fitness industry and other fit pros have reacted to it from the get-go pretty much. And if I had to sum up what these reactions were, by and large, it would be something like quite indicative of being concerned, if not just panicking. Basically, the common theme in these reactions was that they were making an argument for why you should not get too excited about these drugs. But then what they actually used for their argument was just very, very weak. In fact, they were usually arguments that would normally be made for, well, okay, use this thing, but while you're using it, make sure that you also do X, Y, and Z. But instead of that, they were trying to make it sound like, no, like those are very, very strong arguments for not using it at all. I heard arguments like, you could be losing a lot of lean body mass and a lot of muscle mass. That's bullshit, because that's not an argument against Ozempic. That's an argument against losing a lot of weight without doing some resistance training, which could help you retain your lean body mass. I have also heard arguments like it's more difficult to get your protein in because you will be full. If anything, that's a promo point as far as I'm concerned. If you're so full that you actively need to pay attention to consume enough of something, that it means that something that you're using is very, very effective. And then, of course, I heard numerous takes which were basically just mentioning all the potential side effects that Ozempic could have, failing to mention how likely those side effects are to happen, also failing to mention that you could pick up any drug that you're using on a semi-regular basis, like aspirin or any sort of medication that you would use for a cold or having some fever or something like that, and what potential side effects those things have. So it was just a lot of odd takes that reeked desperation. And I think what's happening there is pretty obvious. After decades of waiting for the magic pill, it seems like we actually have something that at least is very close to a magic pill, much, much closer than anything that we've had before. Well, if that's true, then I think we can all understand the desperation. And personally, I can even understand why they would do everything in their power to bash on the drug and to make it less of a hyped thing out there. Of course, we could make the argument that it's unethical, so they shouldn't do it if they know better, but I'm not completely naive. But the real question is, are they actually correct? Is this really something that could end the fitness industry? And I would argue that no, this is not going to make the fitness industry and fit pros obsolete. It doesn't mean that it might not potentially change some of the things that we do and some of our messaging and some of the main things that we emphasize to people in our videos and content. But that's a different conversation. That's not a reason to be desperate about anything. I mean, you change your messaging based on SEO and things like that all the time anyway, right? Like you need to pick up on the trends and you need to actually look at what people really need. Now, let's briefly talk about what Ozempic can actually do for us. Not going to go into like detailed mechanisms of action or whatever. In English, there are millions of videos about it already, so I'm not going to go into it. If someone speaks Hungarian over here, then you can go over to my Hungarian channel, and I have a long video about it there. Here, I would just like to paint a realistic picture, because what we need to understand is that semaglutide, Ozempic, it's not a fat burner. It's not a magic bullet in the sense that you take it and it just burns the fat for you automatically. You still need to basically do the daily things that are going to result in weight loss. Now, where Ozempic is really handy is that it will make it easier to adhere to your diet because it will make you less hungry. It will make you fuller from your meals faster. And as a result of all of that, it's also going to reduce cravings. Effectively, what this does is when we are talking about the best foods for fat loss or what you should prioritize, and we are talking about salads versus junk food and crackers and cookies as opposed to fruits and veggies, we are usually recommending the fruits and the veggies because they are more filling. And then we can basically just draw a spectrum between fruits and veggies down to cookies and crackers. And basically what Ozempic does is that it moves foods from a lower tier up to a higher tier. So cookies and crackers are still going to be a pretty poor choice if you want to diet, but they're not going to be as poor as they were before. If you have a really big appetite, then something like rice might not be a very viable food choice for you because it doesn't have a ton of volume. It's basically just easily digestible glucose, which looks like rice, and is going to absorb from your bloodstream pretty quickly. It's not going to keep you very full for very long. Now it might become a valid diet food item for you. For me personally, oatmeal is not a very good diet food. I just find oatmeal too nice in texture and taste, especially if I add something to it, and I could easily overeat on oatmeal. So I would not eat that, but instead I would eat things like fruits and berries with some Greek yogurt or something like that. Now oatmeal might become as valid of a diet food option as the berries and the Greek yogurt was. As I'm dieting and I'm getting leaner and hungrier, it actually becomes a pretty serious issue that I really need to make sure that I have enough volume of food in front of me at all times. Otherwise, I'm just not going to get full and I will have more cravings, and basically the likelihood of me cheating on my diet is gonna go up. This also reduces my social flexibility. Eating out or eating over at someone else's place is trickier if I'm dieting because I would ideally make sure that I have enough volume of food in front of me, but that's going to be difficult to do in a restaurant or in someone else's house. All of these just basically make life, all in all, trickier to manage when I'm trying to get lean or if I'm very lean already. And what that results in is just higher tendencies from me to try to isolate myself, to not seek the company of people. I'm pretty introverted, so that's a pretty natural behavior for me anyway, but now it's even more so gonna be like that. I can also speak of some experiences on the coaching front. I worked together with some females who were of a smaller stature, even by female standards, and their calories had to go like real low when they were losing fat. And social eating and any sort of socializing became just a real pain in the ass because it was really difficult to come up with any kind of strategy when you needed to fit your whole day's worth of food within like 1,200 calories, or in some cases even lower. And doing this in a restaurant where, even a salad is going to be more calorie dense than it would be at home, man, it's really difficult. And often it came down to a choice between, okay, taking a break from the diet for today, or actually being really hungry for the rest of the day, or maybe even resorting to not eating anything or just eating like a bite of something as a symbolic move. Either of these options suck. And for some people, this is very much just a part of life if they decide to diet. If you're using a drug that is going to make it easier to stay full, it's going to keep you full for longer, eating something that is not so filling, eating something that is not as voluminous as otherwise you would have wanted it to be, is not going to be such a blow. If I'm taking a long bus ride and I cannot bring like a gigantic salad with me because, I'm on a bus, it's not going to be that big of a deal because I can eat whatever is there with me and is easily portable. and I can get by and I will get sufficiently full. If you're one of these female clients that I refer to, it's not going to be such a gigantic pain in the ass to eat out and have to eat something more calorie dense in a restaurant, even if you're on very low calories, because you will be just chronically fuller and more satiated. And those smaller portions of more calorie dense stuff is going to keep you fuller. So it doesn't have to be as much of a choice between breaking your diet or staying hungry. So it's a very nice, to use a gaming term, quality of life enhancement that you could be getting from a drug like this. I can also think of people that I know personally, two in particular I can think of. I've known them for like a decade at this point. Throughout the whole time, ever since I'd known them, they were seriously overweight. One of them in particular, the doctor literally told him that, listen, dude, you need to lose weight because this could cost you your life, or it could cost you a leg if your insulin resistance progresses beyond a certain point. And nothing was enough. No motivation or threats or scary visions of the future were enough to actually push him over the edge of finally getting started with something and actually sticking to it. Is he a person with a uniquely low willpower? Possibly. I don't know, to be honest, but for all intents and purposes, it doesn't matter, because what is the case is that there is a decent chance that he would have died before he ever would have made some serious progress with a weight loss plan. Well, eventually the doctor prescribed Ozempic to him because he needed it for his diabetes that was developing. And couple of months later, he is a different person because he lost so much weight. I understand the fear. So this guy that I brought up in this example, I mean, he went from like 300 pounds down to like 210 or something like that. So like 140 kilos down to 95, which is, I mean, unbelievable and amazing. You can look at that and think to yourself that like, wow, like, I mean, if this drug can help people do this, then why would they need the advice of someone like me? Well, you can look at it another way though as well, and ask yourself the question of like, when do you think someone will have more enthusiasm to reach out to a person who is there to get you into tippy-toppy shape when you're 300 pounds and the past years and decades of evidence were only showing you that you're incapable of making a change, then, or when you just went through this phenomenal transformation and you're looking at a different person in the mirror and probably your self-esteem is soaring through the roof compared to what it was before. I think that in that latter state, someone is a lot more likely to actually seek the help of someone like you or someone like me. The thing about this is that I think there is absolutely nothing wrong with educating these people. In fact, I'll do that now while I'm speaking. If you're one of these people and you're watching this, know that Ozempic, what it's going to do really, really effectively is that it's going to make it easier to follow the advice that some person like me would give you. Instead of you paying someone like me, or maybe you're not paying, you're reading an article or watching a video or something, you're hearing about all these cool strategies, how to increase your energy expenditure, how to cut calories from your diet effectively. All of those things are going to be something that is not going to seem as overwhelming if your appetite is reduced by a great extent. Basically, it's a tool to increase adherence really, really effectively. But it might unlock that skill for you that maybe up until now you believe that is like somehow missing for you, that you will actually do the work yourself. Furthermore, using Ozempic is not going to help you build any muscle, and building muscle is very important, or at least retaining your muscle is very important when you're losing a lot of weight, because that's going to help you, well, not just be healthier, but it also is going to help you with actually being a better shaped version of your prior self and not just a smaller version of your prior self. I don't think there is anything wrong with educating people about all of these things, because it is undoubtedly true that if you're also doing things smart and not just relying on the effects of a drug, you're going to have better results. If you can convince people that wanting better results is a useful pursuit, then I think there is no reason to be fearful. When it comes to people like myself, people that are already into fitness and their challenges come from reconciling social life and a tough fat loss diet and things like this, is the role of coaches and people that could be assisting these people when they have some new fat loss goal, is that going to get reduced because now they have this Ozempic semaglutide tool, which is going to make it easier to eat out and do all these things? The thing is, maybe there will be a chance that someone won't feel as much like, okay, I need a person that I can share this burden with, and I can outsource some of the thinking and strategizing that I need to do because I'm just driving myself crazy. Maybe some of that is going to get taken away if the whole thing is just less of a hassle because you're just chronically not as hungry. But you can also look at it in a different way and approach it from the angle of, Now my role will have to do more so with educating and less so with basically providing therapy. I can tell you, as someone who has coached a lot of people and still do, many times, I would love to be in a position where it would be a matter of like, this is what I recommend you to do because this is what I think is the best option. But in many cases, that is just simply not an option because people are just not robots. We often say that not knowing what to do is often not the biggest barrier, and getting the proper information or providing the proper information is the easiest part of this whole thing. Well, maybe from now on, it's going to be a bigger part of what we do. Now, there's something that James Smith said in this interview that I was referring to in the beginning with the annoying host.
I took it for 2 weeks. And although I don't think people in the fitness industry should be using it to lose weight,
that, okay, so like Ozempic now, I understand that is great. I still say that fitness professionals should not be using it, but now I don't know why he said that last little addendum there, that fitpros should not be using it. I don't want to be bashing on his ideas since I don't even know what those are. But I do know that this is a very common mindset amongst fitness professionals, that if you're a true fitness pro, you should not be using something like this. And I would say that I agree with that to the extent of, if you've never done a fat loss diet without using something like Ozempic, then that's a problem, for the simple reason that most of your clients will not have used Ozempic. Maybe, 10 years from now, it will be very, very different. And, basically everybody will have access to this drug. But as of now, most of the people that you will come across will not have used Ozempic and will not have access to it. And so you as a fitness professional absolutely have to be able to relate to what their experience could possibly be. Of course, you could make the argument that, your experiences and your clients' experiences are always going to be different. You will never exactly know or truly understand what they are really feeling. So in that sense, I guess you could even say that there is no difference between you using Ozempic or not. But I think it's a bit more serious than that. I really think that if you're a fit pro, you will need that experience under your belt where you truly suffered on a diet. Whatever that suffering entailed, whether that was at 5% body fat or already at 15%, you will know how it is like to suffer, how it is like to not be able to sleep on a diet. You probably will benefit from going through a period of at least somewhat disordered eating patterns. Even though I don't wish that upon anybody, I do think that I myself am a better fitness professional because I have had those experiences. Would I trade them off and not be as good of a fitness professional? That's a different question. But I also think that clients do deserve to be with a good fitness professional. So I don't think that you should be relying heavily on tools, at least you should not be doing that at all times, which completely spare you that trouble. Because you could just perpetually have the perception that these goals are easier to accomplish than they really are. And that could lead to a bunch of bad recommendations and non-viable recommendations, at least for most people. You could be under the assumption that portion control is easier and easier to adhere to than it really is. You could be under the assumption that certain food items are more filling than what they really are. It could just flat out reduce your effectiveness as a coach or as a consultant or as a content creator. That said, I will also say that while this is all true, as a fitness professional, during your own diets and your own ventures to get really lean, if you're doing a photo shoot or something like that, you are doing nobody a favor, truly, if you're miserable beyond a certain point, if you're ruining your relationships, if you're chronically sleep deprived because you cannot sleep from all the hunger and cravings, if you're a snappy, annoying, unbearable person and constantly hangry, all you're doing is making yourself a much more unpleasant person to be around. And who is that really good for? So just don't be too dogmatic, I would say. And just for a moment, for the end, I would like to touch more generally on the whole topic of having these magical tools available to us, and in the long term, what could that result in? Mike Israetel talked about this numerous times that I've heard, that, at the end of the day, fat loss, muscle building, strength gaining, all of these things are chemical reactions within the body. So theoretically, there's nothing that prevents us from accomplishing all of that from a pill. And surely one day we will get there. And I think that the real interesting thing about that is not even that it's going to eliminate the need for fit pros, because I would agree that if we really have everything in a pill, then people like me would not have any role here to play other than maybe you just enjoy listening to me speaking while you're playing Xbox or something. The real interesting thing is, if we actually get to that point, or when we get to that point, will there still be any value to being muscular or being lean? And I think the answer is pretty obvious, that there won't be. Because the reason that these things have value today, the reason that we want these things for ourselves, is because society values it. But why does society value it? It's because it's rare. It's because it's hard to get. To be a person who is really muscular, yeah, you can use steroids and whatever, but you still got to be working out. And, also steroids are not really something that most people are willing to do. If you're a person with a killer six-pack, either you need to have like God-given genetics, certainly something that is valued, right? Like during mate selection, we heavily value things that are indicative of really good genetics. Or you need to be a person who is a hard worker with great discipline, with definitely above average willpower. Again, something that is certainly highly valued by society and by people. Once you can get all of this in a pill that is maybe also easily accessible and also cheap, it's not going to be rare anymore. It's not going to speak of great genetics nor of great willpower or anything like that. Why would it still have value? And my guess is that by the time we actually manage to accomplish this, that we can get all of this in a pill, it will no longer be interesting. And seeing someone on the beach with a great six-pack is just not going to be something that we're even going to notice. So at that point, basically, we will shift where our focus lies, and we will start looking at other things that we cannot get in a pill yet. That is really going to suck for someone, for example, who could actually derive a great amount of sense of self-worth from getting into excellent shape. That is no longer going to be an avenue, because we will be able to get that from a pill. And some positive things could come out of that too, like maybe more emphasis is going to be shifted on the inner values, like finally actually being like funny and smart and well-read, and all those things will be just as highly valued, or a lot more highly valued, than having a great six-pack. So yes, I guess if we really extrapolate things, if we really look far into the future, maybe there will come a time when fitness professionals will just have no place anymore, because they will be just completely obsolete. But we are not there yet. And I think as of now, there is absolutely no need to not embrace this new tool that is given to humanity, and those lucky ones that have easy access to it, or any access to it, make good use of it, and also make sure that you're using your efforts smartly while you're getting this little extra boost, or big extra boost. And as fitness professionals, I think let's be glad that people will have an easier time following our recommendations, and they will have a better chance of actually using the strategies that we are putting out there all the time. But nevertheless, I think it's definitely a very interesting topic. I would be curious to see what you guys think. I almost always see some very wise comments in my comment sections, so I'm looking forward to reading some again. With that though, thank you for your attention for today. See you in the next video. So yep, see ya.